We are live. Welcome, everybody. We're live, finally. Very exciting. So my name is Tziporah, and I'm an intimacy and mindful relating educator. And I truly believe that intimacy and compassion are the bridge today to creating thriving human connections in the world. And I'm excited to be joined here by four friends. I counted, though there are three. I guess I can count myself as my own friend. Friends here today, but really wisdom keepers and educators in the world. And in a moment, I'm going to introduce you to them. But right now, I want to give a shout out to Amber from NGN Enterprises. Her vision, this is her vision, the Elevate series. And she started this vision, I think it's been 3 weeks now. And I received an invite. Many people received invitations to be ambassadors. And it was at a place in my life. I've been in shelter in place for, I think it's been 4 weeks now. I lose track of time being in my house. And it was a period that I started going to deep self-reflection. And I'd ask myself every day, how can I be of greater service in the world right now? And a couple things came to me. One, I was recognizing where I was stuck in this sense of urgency, and that I needed to be grounded, centered, present in order to help and support anyone, whether that be my family, my loved ones, as well as myself and the community. And so that became my top priority, was to be resourced. And then as soon as I tapped into that place of resourcefulness, that's when I received this message from Amber. When I received it, my gut was like, hell yes, I'm doing this. And then that other part of me was just like, I have no clue how I'm going to bring this together. In all honesty, I am not tech savvy, but I'm just like, I'm going to do it no matter what. And here we are 3 weeks later, and here I am, and I'm very excited to be here. The vision for Elevate series is, I see it as creating inspiring, impactful, and real conversations with global leaders, with people from master relationship educators to high performance mindset coaches to naturopaths and healthcare practitioners to crisis counselors, that we can bring our best practices, our tips, but not only that, that we can actually bring our personal stories and how we actually pivot our mindset, our attention, our emotional body, our nervous system for ourselves during this time. Because I know for me, I definitely have periods of stress and a lot going on. So with that said, I have a few more logistics for those watching. So I believe all of our vision right now is to reach people, is to support, to help, to care for as many people on the planet as possible right now, as we are in shelter in place going through this. I find it as prolonged times of uncertainty. And so to help us do that through these live streams, my invitation and request right now is, I believe there's a button at the bottom right-hand corner of your screen to start a watch party. And so for those of you on the panel today, I'm going to invite us to start watch parties if we haven't yet, if you know how to, or if you can find that, I think it's a purple button. But also those of you listening, if you feel like conversations like this are going to help your community, your friends, your family, to join us in this and share it live right now on your page with your community. And now I want to introduce our amazing panel. I'm really, really excited. So we have master relationship coach and founder of the Love Coach Academy, and a very, very dear friend, Scott Catamas, with us. We have Dr. Julianna Hauser. She is a therapist, author, philanthropist, and the list goes on. And in a moment, they're all going to introduce themselves, and also a dear friend. And then a new friend, Courtney Smith. She is a crisis counselor. She has a crisis text hotline. I hope I'm saying this correctly. As well as she just founded a program called Glimmering Bridges, which, again, she'll share more about that. I'm excited to be a volunteer for Glimmering Bridges as well. But on that, I'd like to start. So I'm going to kind of hand it off to any of you, I'm not going to tell you who I'm going to ask, but whoever wants to jump in, is I just want us to start by sharing, telling us what's alive for you present day. What maybe, how have you had to show up today and maybe pivot your own mindset, maybe certain stress levels or challenges, and how are you being with, whether we call it a crisis or the global storm and the changes that are presenting to us right now. So anybody.
I'll jump in. First of all, thank you for putting this together, Tziporah. It's nice to meet the other two panel members. I would say the main thing is accepting that none of us know the things we want to know. That's a big part of what I've been really embracing within myself. And as I'm coaching a lot of people and I'm doing a lot of lives, is really, I'm noticing that when people are getting lost, going down the rabbit hole of belief systems, or when couples or people, families are fighting over different belief systems, it's causing so much unnecessary suffering. And I'm really working on embracing the radical acceptance that none of us really know what this is. None of us really know how long it's going to last. None of us really know how it's going to ultimately impact us economically or health-wise. And if we can accept that none of us really know and just hold hands like children in the forest and say, okay, let's just hold hands and be together in the forest, even though we're a little bit lost and we don't know exactly our way out, but we at least have each other. That's kind of what I'm embracing and what I'm wanting to share with the world. Boom. And God said yes.
That's wonderful. Thank you. I want to chime into that, and the unknown. I find myself as well. It's when I get in my head, and I think it comes more so with family members. When I get in my head, thinking I know what's best, or thinking I have the information, so to speak.
Right.
And the stress that it causes in the body. And when I can step back and just sit in stillness, like I was sitting in my garden this morning and sitting in stillness and just saying, okay, so here I am, present, grounded, centered, for whatever, right? Letting go of that idea of what we think is going to happen or what I think is going to happen, and just be like, what's important is I'm ready for anything. Right? And it's a lot less stressful and centering and grounding. So thank you for that. So Scott, I'm just going to jump onto Scott, and then I'd love the other two, Courtney and Julianna, to share. But I know Scott's jumping off before we might end this call. Scott, could you share a little bit more about yourself and what you're doing in the world?
Yeah, so when this happened, I felt really called, okay, now more than anything, people really need support with their relationships. Because as best as I can tell, we're being asked to really be attentive to our relationship to our body temple and our immune system, to be very attentive to our relationship to each other. Many of us are some people are all alone, which is very difficult physically. Other people are kind of trapped in a house or an apartment with their family members, and all the distractions have been stopped, and there's no school. And so, there's, of course, the stress, and then people having to spend much more time with each other than normal. So my organization, which Tziporah has been a big part of over the years, Love Coach Academy, we're doing 2 free online events every day. 9 o'clock in the morning Pacific time and 6 o'clock in the evening Pacific time. And we bring on different guests and love coaches. In fact, tonight at 6 o'clock, I'm doing something with Emily, a partner that I worked with for many years. And we provide empathy, we provide tools, we bring people in from the audience into the webinar room and help them with their relationship issues. And it's been a powerful way to stay connected. And then we do have every Saturday night what we call the Saturday Night Live for the Global Peace Tribe. And it's kind of like a big celebration where we are bringing in musical artists. We have Chow Yutal and Tina Malia coming this Saturday night. And we have comedy, music. It's like a variety show for spiritual people, if you will, or people on kind of a new age, new thought consciousness path. And that's doing great. We've been drawing thousands of people watching on Facebook. So we're really excited about that. So it's kind of like dealing with the hard stuff during the week and then letting loose on Saturday night. So that's what we're currently doing. And thanks for asking.
Thank you, Scott. Thanks for being here. I'm gonna hand it over to the ladies.
I'll start then. So you asked to talk about how our individual lives have changed, and then I'll talk to my work. For me, it was, I guess, probably the biggest change because my work has been virtual for many years. So my actual day-to-day working environment hasn't changed. I've been working out of my home office and I'm able to work with people all over. What has changed is having my children home while that has occurred. And I have a college-age child that I need to bring home from college, which was an interesting transition for him and for us. And then I have a 6-year-old as well, who no longer was in day-to-day school. And I'd say that was the first change was learning a new rhythm. And I had a certain routine of how I went from client to client during the day and how I rejuvenated in between clients, how I cleared my energy and was able to be present for the next person. And that the flexibility I had with that has changed. And so I found soon into this that I needed to do a lot more self-care. And I needed to be having a new level of being adaptable to my day-to-day needs and what I was used to. Then I also just found this the level of stress that most of my clients were experiencing I was feeling a harder time letting that go at night. I saw my sleep change. And then my own just personal worries of what this was and how were we safe, were we not safe, and what were the rules that my family was going to be okay with. And so it brought some interesting conversations that were internal as well with my family. I also had some lovely things happen, which was interesting to work with too, that I enjoyed a different pace. I enjoyed having more time to be present with myself and my kids. I felt a relief from what felt like tons of carpooling and sports and social things. I actually enjoyed not having to do any of that. And so some of it was a peaceful transition in adapting as well. I'm someone who's often small social circles, and will do like intimate dinners or that kind of thing, but didn't really find myself as someone I would have considered an extrovert or needing to go out. And so several weeks into it, I'm about 4 or 5 weeks also. I thought, oh, I really miss hugging. I really miss physical touch with others. I miss going out and seeing community. When it felt okay for us to do walks around the neighborhood, it was beautiful at social distance to see so many people out walking. In our area, in my state, we can do that, feel safe about it. It was lovely seeing people walking around and smiling. There were people on my street. I was like, oh, that's who goes into that house. Great. So like, it's good to see we're waving to each other. And I have hope that will continue since then. But I've chosen to use this time as a time of self-exploration, of looking at who am I, where am I, what does it feel like to take control in a situation that you don't have a lot of control, and make some decisions about how I want things to change in my life. Whereas sometimes the pace of things for my career and my family haven't allowed for that. even though I thought I did. I thought I was doing all of those things very well and very balanced. When that balance changes, is an opportunity to reimagine it. And so that's what I have been able to dive into personally. Work-wise, as I said, I've worked for years online in the virtual world, which has allowed me to work with people all over the world. And so I early into this, I had people I was working with in Spain, in Israel, England, and Australia, and several of those countries were further ahead than we were in it. And so feeling the stress and the fear and the sadness that was happening when it wasn't happening yet here, to that level of intensity, was interesting. It allowed me to really prepare myself professionally for what was coming. And I was able to hear, when you have been in shelter for 20 days, when we hadn't even begun, what kinds of things were happening and what was coming up for people. That helped me to prepare my clients, or for the new ones coming in. One of my clients in Spain said it very well, and is it okay to use a cuss word live, or I'll temper it? She said, Julianna, she's like, you cannot escape your shit. We are in a very small apartment. There are 6 of us here, and we are scared, and we are simultaneously, as well as we've had some differences of timing of facing who are we and who are we together and who do we want to be. And she said sometimes that aligns wonderfully and sometimes it bumps up against each other, but there's no escaping the truth of our connections or the truth of some of our disconnections. And that was interesting to hear very early into this. And I would also say just the beautiful community of it as well. I have several groups that are international that we meet with once a week. And the being able to be real, to say the things that are happy, that are going well, that are working for you, as well as the things that are scary and not working well. Similar to what Scott had said, my clients are all different. Some are completely isolated and are not seeing anybody at all. So having lots of skin hunger and isolation and fear, and what does this mean to be alone? And then other people who have a house full and are trying to manage school and work and personal interaction and dealing with sexual issues and intimacy issues on top of all of that. I've had a rise of domestic violence and clients seeking us out of close quarters. And since everybody is home, there's not a lot of privacy if police come or if there is an issue of yelling and people overhearing it. And then also the other side of this, of couples who are like, I'm really reaffirming that if I needed to be shelter in place with somebody or with my family, I have a very good situation that I'm grateful for.
Thank you. Thank you. I think, specifically what I caught on at the end is the domestic violence. And, I look at my situation and why there's challenges, there's ease to be with a lot of it. And I want to lead into that with Courtney as well, because Courtney does work with crisis specifically. And what do we do, or what do they do? What can you offer as suggestions right now? And I want all 3 of you to know that if you have specific links, your classes, links to hotlines as well, just know that we will be putting them in the comments so you can announce them as you speak, and they will be typed into the comments for people to grab onto, just so you listeners can hear that, so they can click on that and find you all after. So thank you, Julianna, for that, and all the work that you're doing in the world. So much right now to support people globally. We appreciate it.
Yes, of course.
Courtney, I'd love to speak more about what you're up to, and also maybe chime in on that about the domestic violence right now.
Yeah, so I actually have been a crisis counselor on Crisis Text Line. So what that is you text in whenever you're in imminent crisis. So you need someone right then and there to talk to kind of take you from that hot place to a cool calm. And so we give you positive coping skills to work through your issues. You know, I think we might take for granted the fact that we have our list of coping skills, and you know we know how to navigate hard times, but a lot of people, especially you know younger people, teenagers, they don't know how to navigate those issues. So it was just really important for me to start doing that, because in my life, I actually lost my brother to suicide. So that was what really um, made me interested in giving back, being that voice for somebody else that might need it and they might not have anyone at that time to hold their hand. Um, so I think with me, I realized the first week in March through Crisis Text Line that this was really getting serious for people. I started to have to talk to people that were experiencing a lot of worry, a lot of anxiety at that point. They were watching the news, they didn't know what was occurring, they didn't know how it was going to affect their life, and they were almost like paralyzed with fear. And so I would have to talk to them, tell them, well, when you get overwhelmed, you can use these breathing exercises or listen to music, etc. And then the next week, it just kept on ramping up. You know, maybe it was one texter the first week of March, and now it's like all the texters in different ways. You know, I think Dr. Juliana, you really hit it on the head with the domestic violence issues. I've seen that firsthand on Crisis Text Line, because you know you don't have anywhere else to go. So instead of being able to go outside, go to your work, your school, and have that respite, now you're at home, you're trapped. And I think that we should be looking at that part of how the coronavirus is affecting us, because it's not only biological, it's also social and emotional.
Mm-hmm.
So I also want to talk about how my own life has changed. So I'm actually a pre-medical student. I'm a non-traditional student, so I'm I'm a little bit older. I'm almost 30, and I graduated quite a bit ago. But I decided to switch from chemistry research to medicine. So I was getting ready to do all these extracurriculars and volunteering, and I was going this way and that way, and then everything just shut down, and I felt empty, I felt isolated, I felt worried about my own application. I put in so much work, you know, what's going to happen? And I talked to a lot of my friends, and they were feeling the same way. So I felt a lot of emptiness for, I think it was around March 27th is when it got really hard for me, because I had a schedule, like a daily schedule. I woke up, I went to my meeting, I volunteered, you know, as an ombudsman, and it just getting to like interact with people outside and do my tutoring and stuff. And then all of a sudden I'm at home, just at home. And Crisis Text Line was all that I was doing. And so I was empty, but I was trying to help other people that were also going through, you know, similar things. So now with my organization, I started that because I didn't want other people to also be empty. I wanted to reach out to people that um, were feeling isolated or needed to just talk to a friend, needed to make a friend, you know, talk about whatever to get their mind off of things. So I started Glimmering Bridges, the project, a couple weeks ago, and we've had such a crazy awesome response. You know, my volunteers and my matches are having a grand old time chatting about, you know, pets and what they're up to, exercising, learning Spanish. And it's just so great to make a positive impact in people's lives right now and just connect them with the outside world.
Thank you, Courtney. Thank you, all of you. Like such I find just such wisdom coming through all of you. And I also want to say for our conversation today, while I initiated it and started it, know that this is conversational. So if one of you say something and the other one wants to jump in and add to it, please, free space to just do that right now rather than always coming back to me. So if someone says something, that resonates for me, just chime into that, okay? It's interesting. I'll share my story. Is for me, when all of this started, something I've never shared live before is I was diagnosed like 6 years ago with Lyme's disease. And I keep that part of my life very private. I don't like to focus on that. And I do what I do, and then I do my treatments. But I came to Southern California to focus on going into intensive treatments with the Amen Clinic here in Los Angeles, in Costa Mesa, actually. And so I was full on in the middle of that, driving an hour twice a week to get intramuscular injections and taking all sorts of supplements and products for the treatment. And then all of a sudden, boom, right? It was about a week before shelter in place was called mandatory that I am so grateful. I know a mutual friend of Scott and I had a call. Wonderful Daniel. And he had a call, and it was a group call to start to give us information. And it's information that, we're going to want to start preparing for being in shelter in place. And this is what is happening that hasn't been announced yet. And the first thing that went through my body was like this surge of nervousness and urgency. And, that urgency was, first, what's happening in my own body. Second, I need to take care of my entire family that wouldn't necessarily have this information. And then going into now, how do I show up and actually take care of the neighborhood? I'm in an Airbnb, so I take care of the neighborhood that I'm surrounded by, so they're informed. But before any of that could take place, I think I was in tears for about a week. And there wasn't a thought to those tears. They were really what I would call like really deep, soulful tears, maybe grief, this internal state of grief. That just exploded through my system. And I'm really grateful, really, really grateful that I'm in a beautiful space, and I had a space to just like, okay, so I know I need to just be with this. And I also know that many clients that I work with or people in the world, especially today being in lockdown, aren't necessarily going to feel that that's safe. Mm-hmm. But I know for me, one of the things that I've learned throughout everything my body has been through, and that I've been through, is that I actually also go through that in order to get to the other side. And I know if that was one big insight that I wanted to offer, like I know through experience that sitting in the fire, obviously where, logically, logistically, it is safe and here, clean, clear, home space, quiet, that wow, my inner like inferno, right? All those emotions, nervous system, whatever's happening, the only way for me to get to the other side of that, okay, so I just need to sit somewhere, feel the panic. And I'm going to share one story, then I want to jump it back, hand it off to you all, is I remember one day my nervous system was pretty frazzled. And how I actually feel that is I feel like I'm about 10 steps ahead of my body. It's like the urgency, right? Mm-hmm. And I know many of you listening possibly have felt that state of urgency. And often in that state of urgency, I don't know if you've all felt that, it sometimes is like, oh, I have to keep doing, and I have to keep doing. It's a coping mechanism. But in that moment, I kind of tapped in. It's like, no, I'm going to place myself outside and do nothing. Meaning I let go of any form of formal practice and discipline like meditation or breath work. And I'm like, I'm just going to sit here and listen and feel. And when I closed my eyes, the first thing I felt was the uncomfortable. Whether that shows up as constriction and tightness in the body, it was that uncomfortable feeling, that feeling that often we might feel like to run from at first, or to get busy and to take care of other people. And then I'm just going to lie there. And I lied there and I watched it. And then slowly, it was kind of like a grip that would slowly start to move and twist and turn and change shape and form. And the longer I was with it, the more it started to show me. And the more that those feelings in my body started to shift. And to fast forward, the outcome of that stillness and being able to be present with all of that chaos and the uncomfortable and scary stuff is that my nervous system was given a space that it could eventually come back on to this calm, quiet space without really doing anything. And so I'm sharing that story because I can imagine right now so many of us feel that sense of urgency, feel like we want to run, or it's a coping mechanism. So I'm curious from all of you of what do you want to offer right now on either mindset or ways to pivot, even ways that you've applied personally through this crisis of pivoting that intensified nervous system or wanting to run or be in that fight, flight, or freeze movement? What are some pivoting suggestions and even personal practices you can offer right now?
I'll jump in first if that's all right, just because I need to leave at 4:30. There's two quick things I want to riff on that are actually connected to the beauty of what you just said, Tziporah. I want to acknowledge that when we're scared, we as human beings, no matter how spiritual we are, once the reptile brain gets activated, right, we react however the reptile brain dictates, right? Fight, flight, freeze. And you were describing the flight reaction. And a lot of people are in the flight reaction, disassociating, right? On television the whole time or on computer the whole time. Your other panel member brought up the very real thing of domestic violence. One of our love coaches, I think she's actually watching right now, had a friend who was murdered by her friend's husband when they got into a terrible fight last week. So when you've got people stuck together and there's not much to do, and then if you add drugs or alcohol into the mix and there's no place to go, it's a really, really dangerous combination. And that's obviously whatever took place in that home where she was murdered, and he's going to be in prison for a long time, not the rest of his life. 2 lives were destroyed because they didn't have the proper ability to calm their nervous system, which is why it's so important what you said. And so it's perfectly human, whatever reactions we're having, and they're going to come like waves, right? It's, just as coronavirus is like a wave that goes around the world, right? It started in China, it hit Europe, now it's here. Likewise, our emotions are like waves. And as somebody who's born and raised in California and did a lot of body surfing, what do you do when a wave comes? You either go underneath it, or you go above it, or you ride it, okay? And so using that as kind of an analogy, when a wave of fear comes up, don't let it wipe you out, don't let it crash you, but either go underneath it, and what that looks like is just like, okay, it's just a wave of fear, I'm not going to get lost in it. Or if you've got the skill set, like you do, Tziporah, like you teach, you ride it. Okay, I'm going to ride this, knowing it's just a wave. It's not going to last forever. It's going to start you in one place and take you to another, and then it's going to be over. And so what we don't want to do is stuff, and then explode. So just acknowledging, once again, Fear is going to be present. Confusion is present. Anger is present. You know, a lot of us get really angry. So these are the things that we need to acknowledge and accept, and then turn to people like the four of us and Love Coach Academy and all the other places that are offering support if it's really getting to the point where it's dangerous. And it's okay. I guess the last thing I want to say is reach out for support. Reach out for support. There's more happening online than ever before. And you can find a lot of places we can talk to somebody who does have the ability to help you ride that wave, help you to manage that fear, that anger, whatever it might be. So thank you, Tziporah. Thank you, wonderful panel members, for being here. I'm gonna leave the studio, but I look forward to connecting with you soon. And Tziporah, I'd love to have you on our show, the Compassionate Talk Show.
Love that. Thank you. Scott, before you go, is there any links? I know you mentioned Love Coach Academy. We're going to type it in the comments. Is there anything else that you want us to make live for?
Yeah, thank you. I'll just make it easy. Go to lovecoachacademy.com or go to the Love Coach Academy page at 9 a.m. or 6 p.m. or sometimes it's a couple minutes afterwards. And that's where people can catch our free support shows. Yeah.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you. God is blessed. God is blessed.
Bye. So, well, guys, we're going to continue this call, and I would love us to go forward and ask both of you is to share personal ways that you've been able to pivot, but really concise, like ways that our viewers right now, those listening, can maybe start to apply to really elevate their life, their well-being, their situation, and help their nervous system right now. What would you like to share on that?
Courtney, would you like to go? Can she hear?
Courtney, can you hear us?
I think she said she's having technical difficulties. So one of the ways that that I've been handling this for myself and then teaching my clients is just very similar to what you're saying, is to stay into that awareness, to remove judgment as to how you're feeling and how those feelings are changing, and to remain curious as to what is this informing you, for your body or your emotions or your reactions to other people, and allow that to inform you. And you don't necessarily even have to act right away, but just to stay in that knowing. And for me, I like to do journaling and writing. Others, it's artwork, music. It is sitting out in the grass, if you have that, to connect to earth. But again, like as even Scott was saying, I also like to not disassociate from it all, to allow it, allow the truth to come to you and not be afraid of what that is. But then I've also, for myself and to others, I've given, I think it's important to give permission to not escape it in the sense of it, but just say, okay, perhaps I've had too much of this, too much. My natural instinct is to go to this. So I'm going to draw in an opposing emotion or experience, and go to joy and be unapologetic. It's interesting. I've had a number of people who felt guilty when they have felt happiness and joy in this time period as well. Similar to when there's a grieving in your life or in someone else's life, of feeling guilty that there's still happiness in that, and accepting it, enjoying it, and sharing that with other people so that others can feel it. Courtney's back. And I do, I think one of the a beautiful beginning is helping others and offering yourself or your joy or your gifts to other people, however you can, even if it's just virtually, through a phone call, through a video call, through a craft, through something in the mail. That giving to others and thinking of others, and not thinking of your own individual experience, can make a big difference and change your attitude and way of experiencing it.
Yeah, and the mindset shift of helping others. I want to chime in on that for a moment, and then I want to hand it back to Courtney. Is I know for me, it's been a fine line, right, of watching it. Where do we care for others, and especially our close family members?
Mm-hmm.
And where does it become our, I'm going to call it an agenda. So I spoke into this like a week ago on live. Where can I just love and show up for someone right now versus they need to do something to be healthy or to follow a certain protocol right now to be safe. I know I do it. And so it's like checking in with ourselves is like, where can I just, I think presence is the greatest word. And you know, Courtney as well with the volunteering and just like the calls, just being present. And I know that's been a growth curve for me, especially mainly with family, especially with my mother. I'm going to say with my mama. And okay, no, these are her choices. So being able to agree to disagree, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And where can we come back into just being in love? And if we're in disagreements or finding ourselves in those chaotic emotions or the anger or the upset, can I take a pause and leave that agenda or that conversation and then come back to it after I've taken 5 deep breaths or after I've gone out and placed my feet on the earth or done what I needed to do to be resourced, and then come back and help others and share. So thank you for that. Thank you, Julianna. Courtney, welcome back. We lost you there for a moment.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Welcome back. So we were talking about what is there something that maybe a way that you would suggest people to pivot, people who are feeling in crisis or even alone, especially if that's, you know, where you're going with the hotline, people who want connection. What maybe are some concise, simple things that they can be doing right now for themselves?
Yeah, so it's a good question. I think for a lot of us, we don't put into words what we're feeling, and it can be helpful just to write it down, maybe on a daily basis, and you can kind of track how you're feeling, and just be mindful of how you're feeling. And the second thing is just taking time, doing something that you love to do, whether that's watching Tiger King on Netflix or reading a book. This time is allowing us to really reach down and do stuff that we love to do rather than, the rat race, going to work and doing all of this stuff. Like you said, Tziporah, it's just a time for relaxation and paying attention to ourselves and our families and our friends. And then the third thing is if you really are in crisis, just reach out to a hotline, a text line, either phone or text. I know some people are uncomfortable talking on the phone when you're in crisis, and crisistextline.org is a place that you can go for help. And there's crisis counselors that are trained, professionals. They might have PhDs, they might be master students. So it's a pretty great place just to reach out to someone. My organization is for people that feel that they want someone consistent to talk to. They want someone that they can share themselves with for a little bit, whether it is for a month or 2 months, maybe 2 weeks, just to have that friend that you can open up to and just talk about life to is meaningful for some people right now. And I'm so thankful to have the opportunity to have the organization and working with my partner. He's my outreach. He helps me with outreach. And I'm also thankful to have the opportunity to be a county commissioner for Orange County and advocating for, the mental health of our community. So
Thank you for everything you're doing, Courtney. Courtney, we put the crisistextline.org for you viewing is in the comments, so you can click on that. Do you have another link, Courtney, for Glimmering Bridges? Anything that you want people to know right now?
Yeah, so if you or someone you know needs a friend to talk to on the phone, you can go to glimmeringbridges.com, or you can text or call me personally at 813-846-8677. I know that we have quite a few elderly individuals, and they might not be apt to navigate the website, so they can just call or text, and I'll match them with someone. We've done quite a few matches now, and I match people personally based on my conversations with them, and it's been going pretty well so far, so I'm really happy.
Thank you. And I want to we just had some comments. I want to just let people know you viewing is that all the phone numbers, the links, these wonderful friends and experts here are going to also leave their websites with you, and everything you will find in the comments. When we're done with this live stream, we will go back and share this with all the information to connect and have the tools that they're sharing. I want to tap into, we have a few more minutes, and I want to tap into a piece that both of you shared around the guilt, the importance of tapping into your joy, like enjoying what we do have, and maybe feeling the guilty of feeling pleasure or being happy. And the one thing that I'm reminded of daily and love to remind people is, right, we have a choice right now of, we're here, we're in it, we're in the midst of the storm, we're this prolonged uncertainty.
Yeah.
Let us tap into the tools. I know for me, it's I think for all of us, as we're doing that daily, is tapping into the tools or reaching out to our support systems. But I've learned the importance of pivoting that awareness. Like, I can focus on what's not working. Easier to say when I'm not in a state of stress, or I can focus on, okay, so where am I at? What can I do today? And sometimes, especially right in crisis or in a state of stress, it might simply be, what can I do in this moment?
Mm-hmm.
Not even thinking about 5 minutes from now. I have my dear mother, love her so much. And she, for connection, she calls me every day, but she calls me to ask for things, because that's her way of connecting. And so it's also a reminder to all of us is we will all have different ways of connecting. And what I can see, if there's an uncomfortability with opening up emotionally or vulnerably,
yes,
it might look like, oh, I need you to do this, I need you to do that. And so I can see that as an outreach for connection. My responsibility is, okay, so what's my physical, emotional, psychological state right now? Because I can easily be like, oh, I have these 10 things that I need to make sure are done and urgent and taken care of. Or it's like, okay, I feel distress. So that is just, what can we do in this moment? Really simple practice. And so as we are down to our final minutes here, is there anything left that both of you would like to offer, to share, of just to leave people with today, with what's happening in the state right now?
I would say one phrase that I've been offering to people to tell yourself and to tell others, even if it's something, as you just said, that example with your mother, that it may not seem an obvious ask, but perhaps the underlying part of this, because in one way or another, we are all facing a mortality at a different level, in a different space than we ever had before, is the phrase, you matter. Your story matters, you matter to me, you matter to the world, whatever the phrasing that feels right, and outright saying that to somebody and to yourself, or recognizing that need in somebody else and providing it to whatever level feels right to you at that moment, in that relationship or at that time. The last thing also I would add is if you are around children at all at this time frame, that some kids, depending on their age or their personality, may have it seem like they're completely unaware of what's happening, but they pick up on your stress, on the situation, and at the least, their day-to-day life is changed. And this is an opportunity to show by modeling or also through conversation, helping them about adaptability. So much of a life skill is being able to adapt to things that are ambiguous when you don't know what's going to happen or what something is, knowing how to regulate yourself in the midst of that ambiguity. This is the chance to talk about that or see it in your child or explain it or to explain how you're going through it too. I know lots of stories of kids being more tearful these days and not really knowing how to express what they're feeling or more irritable, as well as guilt, parental guilt as to how, like, am I present enough? How do I work and provide all the stuff I'm supposed to for my child when I just need time to myself too? And so I've recommended for those who have kids in their house or that they're around them to have a place in the house that is safe for everyone, that it's a supportive place. It can be a beanbag. It can be an actual room where you shut the door and that you can rotate, or you can have a signal that says, I need to go there. It's not a punishment. It's not timeout in a consequence way. It is I need to regulate myself. I need to ground myself. Or I want to give you time to have a break from this or whatever is happening. And I recommend having a place in your home or for yourself that your family is allowed to do that.
Love that. Thank you. Thank you. I love that. Thank you, Julianna. For children and adults,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, I find if you need to even go into a closet, mm-hmm. that you've made space, if you're in a house full of people and that's the only place that you can get 3 minutes of quiet to yourself, is make your little nook. So important for us to do that in order to be able to have really thriving connection right now versus mm-hmm. coming together in that panic, stressful state. And so thank you very much for that. Dr. Julianna, do you have any links that you want to share out loud right now so we can put them in the comments, your website, any other information?
Sure. Yeah, my website is dr-julianna with 1n.com, or to email me. I've opened up night hours and weekend hours and changed it that you don't just have to do an hour session with me. That I've literally put out there, if you need 10 minutes in the pantry, it's funny you said pantry, to cry and have someone just sit there with you, or vent because you need to get this out, this is the time for that too. And I'm available and open to that also. Money is such a difficult thing for a lot of people right now. There's lots of fear of scarcity or what's either now not getting income or what's it going to be later. And I've never wanted mental health to be something that is kept from you if you don't have it. So please seek it. So reach out to me or other mental health care professionals. And Courtney, I love the work that you're doing and offering it. I hadn't heard of it. I will contact you and be able to get more information to give it out to my people as well. But my email is Dr. Julianna Hauser, Hauser, at gmail.com and write. And it has felt beautiful to be able to help people all over the world. And I want to be able to do that. And I'm available for that as well.
Thank you. Courtney, do you have any last final words before I prepare to close our call today?
Yeah, I have a couple. First of all, I think we are going to realize, and we're realizing, that we're all in this together. No matter your ethnic background, no matter your religious background, we're all struggling in a different way. So I think it's more important, now more than ever, to just let down those boundaries, to hold hands, figuratively, and just be there for each other, regardless of our background. And the second thing is it's okay to feel. It's okay to feel whatever, you know, feel sad, feel happy, feel angry. I think a lot of us during our normal lives are just focused on getting the day done without taking time to think about how we're feeling. And this time allows us to really just be okay with feeling. So yeah, that's
Thank you.
that's what I have to say.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank
Mom.
you, Tziporah, for getting us together.
Yes, thank
you.
you. This has been really great.
Thank you for all the wisdom that you're sharing, the gifts you're sharing, and I'm just going to do some final announcements. So, for those of you joining us today, we've had a little bit of technical difficulties, but I just want to announce that these live streams will be going live over on Soulful Relating Institute with Tziporah, which is my business page. They will also be shared after. You'll be able to gather information from our guest speakers as well as we go through the series. We will post in the comments that there is a main event page. And if you want to stay up to date for announcements on who's coming into the live session on what day, to keep track of the schedule and the speakers, you want to say that you're interested, you want to say that you're going to this event, and that way you'll get the feed of who's going live. I'm trying to think of any last words I have besides logistics. I get lost in logistics. Yeah, one of the pieces I want to close with is, and it is bouncing off a bit of what Julianna and Courtney shared, is taking a step back in order to take in a larger view. And that means that in the midst of the stress or the panic or the concern of what's going to happen next, in the midst of that, now we're in a fight with our partner or children, we're wanting something a certain way and it's not happening. Can I just step back and pause and realize what is actually happening, that it's not the ideal for pretty much everybody on the planet? And by taking that pause, invite in a bit of, okay, understanding and compassion, one for ourselves in that moment. But truly, I believe that there is going to be another side of this. And right now that we're in the midst of the fire, that what do we want to create now or when we're on the other side of it? And so I find as we're going through this, the importance to implement our self-practices, to call the support lines or have a session with the therapist or the coach, and to create your support circles and build this internal system, right? Our internal state strong and resourceful. So when we are on the other side of this, I do see this as an opportunity, even though it's so unknown, even in my world, that we get to create something different. I get to create something different. And how are we going to show up to do that? So those are my parting words. You can find more about me and my services on TziporahIntimacy.com. That will be in the comments as well. I have also opened up my schedule for 30-minute or less one-off sessions. So reach out to me as well. It doesn't matter about the financial structures, just reach out to me. I want to be of support and service. Contact these amazing women. Go ahead also and look up Love Coach Academy. So many people are showing up. To continue with these live streams, we will be going live on Tuesdays and Fridays. So a little bit of a schedule change. So today we went late because we had some technical difficulties. On Friday this week, we're actually going live at 11 a.m. Pacific Coast time because we have a very special guest from Germany joining us, but I'll save that announcement. I'm very excited for this call. Yet the following week, our typical timings will be Tuesdays and Fridays for the Elevate series at 3 p.m. Pacific time. we'll be going live on the Soulful Relating Institute with Tziporah. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I'm also offering live free, by donation, classes live on Wednesdays and Fridays at 1:15 p.m. Wednesdays is the Conscious Connected Breathwork group practice. And then Fridays are strategies for healthy relationships during lockdown. So join me for those. Those are all gifted to you. So I'm going to close at that. That was a lot of information. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We look forward to seeing you on Friday. Thank you to Dr. Julianna and Courtney, and also to Thomas for joining us today. So much love to you all. Yeah, take care. Love to you and your families.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.